Hi, in this video, I'm going to explain you integrating Okta with IAS, IPS and other applications. As you know, Okta is a cloud-based identity and access management solution which is adapted by many organizations today across the globe, which is a very easy to use cloud-based application with more than 6,000 plus ready to integrate scenarios. So it provides you options to integrate various solutions. And the first advantage of using Okta is that you have the single sign-on, and the second advantage is the multi-factor authentication. Apart from that, you have various other capabilities with Okta, such as your mobile identity management. You can specify flexible policies. Your authentication authorizations can be easily managed with Okta and many more. While this video explains about how to integrate Okta, I'm not going in depth in terms of what all benefits Okta can bring you. I'm limiting the requirement to integrate Okta with cloud identity services because my main focus is on cloud identity and access governance. While, as I mentioned, there are multiple scenarios, multiple applications that can be integrated, I'll not be explaining more detail about those integrations. So in this video, I'm taking a requirement of connecting, you know, various applications like Ariba, IBP, SuccessFactors, and then SAP BTP. So what we are actually doing is, in such scenarios, you can have multiple proxies set up in the Okta. So I'm creating Okta as proxy one, which is utilized to connect SAP BTP, wherein Okta as proxy 2, which is used to connect Ariba, IBP, SuccessFactors, or any other applications which has, such as your SAP Cloud. But the interesting part is that both of them are configured or set up on cloud identity services. So what is the advantage of doing multiple proxies of the same Okta application? The advantage is that your configurations, your authentications, and your parameters can be entirely different. Your group of people who can utilize this could be entirely different. So what you need to do to set up this configuration is that first you need access to the Okta application. As an administrator, you should be able to log in to perform the configuration. And at the same time, you also need access to IAS and BTP accounts, to set up the configurations. So the entire configuration is broken up into 5 different steps. The first step is where you have to create the application in Okta. Then you need to configure the corporate identity provider. Once the corporate identity provider is created in IAS system, that is where you have to utilize it to set up in the SAP BTP sub account. So you need to maintain all the trust configuration. Then you need to make certain IAS configurations, such as setting up your parameters and then the logout URLs and all those stuff. And then you need to create and configure groups. So I'm going to detail each of these steps in the next set of slides. In this video, I'm probably not going into individual application and show how exactly we do configurations, but I've captured the screenshots to make it simple. And I'm going to show you the screenshots at each of the stage. And in case if you feel that you are lost with some of the configuration or you need some help at any point in time, please drop me an email and I'm happy to connect and help you out as possible. So the first step in the configuration is you need to set up the application in Okta. As I mentioned, there are 6,000 plus applications which are readily available to integrate. So either you can select the application which is readily available or you create your own integration. So in case if you want to see which all apps are available by default, you can use the browse app catalog, or if you are not sure, then you can simply select the create app integration button, okay, in the Okta application. So all you need to do is log into Okta as an administrator. You should be able to see all these options: the directory, applications, report, settings. The important option is the application. So if you see the application tab, select the applications option and create the app integration button. So once you create the app integration button, it will give you an option where you can integrate the new application by following four different uh, sign-in methods. One is called as OIDC, which is OpenID Connect, which uses OAuth 2.0 authentication. Second is SAML. Third is the secure web authentication, and fourth is the API services. So we are going with SAML 2.0 because that is the configuration which IAS supports most, while OpenID Connect, SWA or API services are also available in various other app integrations. For now, for setting up our connection or integration, we are using SAML. So once you select SAML integration, you need to enter the app name. In case if you want to upload any app logo, which is an optional, you can add the app logo. And then you can specify the app visibility. Do you want to display it as an application to the user? So when they log into the Okta application, whatever app that you add here will be displayed for them, whether they can click and log in directly into that application, or if you don't want that, you can uncheck this box. So similar way in the mobile app, when users log into the Okta mobile app, do you want to display this app in that list? So this is for the app visibility. So select as per your requirement and click next. And you have to maintain the URLs. So what you need to do at this particular stage is you need two URLs. One is called as the SSO URL and the second one is called as the SP URL. So what you need to do is you need to pick up these two URLs from IAS. So you need to log into IAS. You have to go to the tenant settings and there will be an option called single sign-on, and under single sign-on SAML 2.0 configuration, you need to go there and copy two URLs from that particular screen. One is called as the SP URL, which is the service provider URL. Second one is the HTTP post URL, which is the SSO URL. So you need to copy both of these URLs and maintain in these two URL boxes. The single sign-on URL is where we keep the HTTP post URL, and the audience URI, which is SP entity ID, is where you keep the service provider URL. And you can just give the other settings and move further. So once you maintain both the URLs, this is where you need to update the attributes, especially group attributes. So why do we need this group attributes is in BTP, role collections can be assigned to groups, and these groups can be assigned back in the IAS system. So as soon as Okta sends the identity information along with the groups, the respective authorizations or the role collections will be assigned to the user. So what you can, if you look at the group attributes, you can say groups, which starts with any specific requirement, you can add it, maintain it, and then, you can add as many as entries possible. And once you maintain your group attributes, you can click next to move forward. But remember, this is an optional configuration. It is not that you have to maintain it, or it is not a mandatory step that you have to follow. So once you maintain the groups, once you complete that activity, the third step is where you see this is the last step, right? So you will be able to see about the configuration. You can specify whether it is an internal app that you have created or it is a global app which is used, just for Okta to understand what kind of app it is. So you just need to click on finish, right? In case if you don't want to specify, you can leave it. It is not again mandatory that you have to specify, but it is always good for people to know whether it is an internal app or it is a common app. So with this, the setup of application or app is completed in Okta. Now what you need to do is you need to uh, go to the applications and you have to click the sign on option where you have to copy the metadata URL. So this metadata URL is needed for us to maintain in the corporate identity provider. You have to log into IAS and go to SAML 2.0 configuration of that particular corporate IDP and give this metadata URL, and you need to click the load button. So once you click the load button, it loads all the values, which means there is a connection established, and then you need to carry out these three options. So the first step is maintain enrich assertion attributes, then set up identity federation, and then maintain the logout URL. So as I mentioned, once you click the load button, this is how the metadata response will be. This is for you to understand that yes, your integration is working fine and it is able to connect and then get the information, right? So once you do that, the step 3 is where you need to set up the BTP trust configuration. I'm not speaking in detail about setting up BTP trust because it is a complete different topic, and I assume that you know how to make the BTP trust configuration. But I'm also going to upload another video which is going to explain more about the BTP trust configuration. So I'm just skipping that configuration in this video. And the next step is, in the corporate identity provider, you also see an option called enriched assertion attribute. So what you need to do is click in the IAS under the trust configuration, select the corporate identity provider, right? And go to SAML. Under the SAML options, you'll see an option called enriched assertion attribute. And this is where you need to maintain all the attributes like the groups, first name, last name, email, whatever values you want to pull in from your Okta must be maintained here. And this is a mandatory step. Unless and until you specify the assertion attributes, your user information or the group's information is not automatically pulled in by your IAS or by your corporate identity provider. So once you do that, the next step is where you set up the identity federation. So what you need to do is go to identity federation in IAS and you need to switch off the use of identity authentication user store, so that the authentication is done at Okta end but not at the IAS end. If not, IAS is used to authenticate the user credentials, but if you want to do the authentication with Okta, you have to disable this option. And you need to set up the logout URL. So when someone logs out of Okta or the application, you don't want to see a 404 error. So this is where under IAS, the same configuration, you'll find an additional option called configure logout to URL. So you need to mention whichever URL you want. It can be your company page, it can be the logon page, It can be your internal website, or employee page, whatever you feel that is relevant, like intranet portal, something. You will be able to set up that URL so that when our user logs out of the application, it directs to this particular logout URL. And the last step is where you need to set up attributes. So in the Okta configuration, you have to go and define self-defined attributes as shown here, like email, groups, whatever you have maintained in the IAS, the same thing must be maintained in Okta as well again. Uh, so that, okay, you have uh, proper definition of attributes which are required at the Okta side as well as the IAS side. And once you do this, you need to create one conditional authentication. Okay. So conditional authentication is where in the default authentication identity provider, you have to go and select the default identity provider. So this is the custom IDP that I've created, custom identity provider that I've created. I'm picking that and then saying, okay, in my IAS that my authentication is not IAS based or CIS based, and it is Okta based. So I need to specify the identity provider and save. Once I select my identity provider, my custom IDP, click on save, which will ensure that your integration is done. Right. Once you have the integration, if you have group set up in the IDP or in your CIS and the BTP account for automated role collection assignment, even you can assign the groups, and assign people to these groups in Okta. So you can create your own groups and then assign people here itself. So you can select the group and assign people. Again, this is not a mandatory step, but then it automates all your role collection assignments. In case if you want to automate the groups and then assign uh, people to those particular groups and then select the applications in which the group should be assigned, you can maintain all these in the Okta application itself. So once you complete this activity, your integration with Okta is ready, and you'll be able to log in to your application which is hosted on the SAP BTP sub account using Okta. So that is how quick and easy to configure Okta with your cloud identity services, set up with IAS and IPS, and integrate various applications. I hope you like this video. If you have any feedback or questions, drop me an email at raghu@raghubodu.com. Follow my YouTube channel for such more videos, or connect to me on LinkedIn. Thank you.